You'd be surprised what your mind holds on to. For me, it was the sound of her chair, the one at the end of the dining table. For years, it squeaked every time she sat down, a tiny, familiar noise that belonged to no one else. I never noticed how much I relied on that sound until one morning it didn't come. She sat in silence. No creak, no glance across the table. Just the scrape of a spoon in her oatmeal, the soft click of her phone screen lighting up again and again. Her name was Calder, and she'd always hated sweet breakfasts. So when she made herself oatmeal with strawberries 3 mornings in a row, something in me started to slip. I'm Merrick. I was a furniture restorer. Still am, sort of. I used to bring home broken chairs, coffee tables with burn marks, bookcases with uneven legs, and I'd spend weeks making them right again. There's something satisfying about saving what most people would throw away. I believe marriage worked the same way. If something broke, you fixed it. But I've come to realize, some people stop wanting to fix things long before they admit they're broken. Calder and I were married for 9.5 years. We lived in a small town in northern Vermont, the kind of place where everyone leaves their doors unlocked, where snow piles so high in February that your house feels like an island. And for most of those years, I believed we were weathering life together. She was an archivist at the local library, the quiet type. She wore thick cardigans in every season and always kept a pencil behind her ear, even when she wasn't writing anything down. I loved the way she existed, calmly, with a mind full of things she rarely said aloud. We didn't argue often. We didn't need to. I thought that was a sign of strength. But now I think silence has its own language. And I just didn't understand what it was telling me. The day everything changed wasn't loud. It wasn't some explosive discovery. It was small, like a thread snapping somewhere in the back of a room. It started with a photograph, not a printed one. A glimpse of a thumbnail in her laptop's dock, quickly minimized when I walked into the room. She'd never done that before. I wasn't the type to snoop, still not, but something in her eyes that day made my stomach knot. It was as if she was a mile away, even while sitting right there beside me. Later that evening, she told me she was going to stay with a friend for the weekend, Yvette, her coworker. I smiled, nodded, helped her pack an overnight bag. But when she left, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the kitchen table with that same bowl of strawberries she left behind, wondering why the house felt so unfamiliar. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I checked her calendar. And there, right next to Library Archives Reorg, was a tiny, innocuous entry. Bergen, 6:30 p.m. Nothing else. No last name. No explanation. I didn't know a Bergen. Neither did any of our friends. I remember whispering the name to myself, like it might wake something up in my brain. I didn't confront her. I didn't call. I didn't even stay. I left. Not in a blaze of rage. Not with a slam of doors. I just packed a single bag, locked up the shop, turned off my phone, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I needed to become unreachable. Because when something once so quiet becomes even quieter, it means it's gone. I didn't disappear in the dramatic sense. I didn't fake my death. I didn't leave a cryptic note or shut down every account. I just stopped being accessible. People think running away requires noise. But sometimes, all it takes is choosing not to answer. I drove until the trees changed shape, until road signs stopped sounding familiar. I crossed 3 state lines without realizing I'd done it. Somewhere outside a place called Grafton Hollow, I saw a crooked hand-painted sign that said, "Rooms available. Cash only." That's where I stayed. The man who ran the place was named Clintwood, thin as a rake, with hands stained by tobacco and oil. He didn't ask questions. I paid for 2 nights. I stayed for 11 months. The room was small, with wallpaper that curled away from the corners and a lamp that leaned slightly to the left. The bed was loud, even if you just sat down carefully. I didn't care. I wasn't there for comfort. I was there because I needed to forget what it meant to be someone's husband. But forgetting isn't something you can do on command. For the first few weeks, I thought of Calder constantly. Not in rage. Not even in sadness. Just in fragments. The way she used to twist the sleeve of her sweater when she was anxious. The quiet cough she gave before speaking in front of people. The way she pressed her hand against her forehead when she read something heartbreaking in the newspaper. I didn't hate her. I envied her. She had made a decision, even if she didn't say it out loud. I was the one left swimming in the in-between, not abandoned, but not chosen. Each morning, I swept the motel walkway. Clint would never ask me to. It gave me something to do with my hands. I'd line up the fallen pine needles into small piles and stare at them like they were puzzles that needed solving. At night, I'd sit by the vending machine with a warm can of ginger ale and think about all the conversations Calder and I never had. The "are we okay?" we never asked. The "do you feel distant too?" The "what are we still doing this for?" We had always been so good at politeness. So respectful. So quiet. But quiet can rot if you let it settle too long. One evening in January, I woke up sweating. I had dreamed we were standing in our old kitchen, and she was holding a photograph, but in the dream, the photo was blank. She was crying, and I was apologizing, but I had no idea for what. I realized then, maybe the betrayal wasn't just hers. Maybe part of me knew things were broken and chose to do nothing. Maybe I liked the illusion of peace more than the effort it took to ask hard questions. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just to see if I could be honest, even on paper. You stopped reaching for me, but I stopped showing up. You needed to feel alive again. I needed to feel seen. Maybe we were both starving, just in different ways. I burned it the next morning. It felt right, like burying something that had already died. Still, I kept waking up expecting her to call. She never did. Not then, but someone else did. And that call would start the chain reaction that pulled everything back into motion. There's snow now. Thick. Wet. Relentless. I don't check the calendar. I don't need to know the date. I just count sounds. One drip from the bathroom faucet every 13 seconds. 3 knocks when Clintwood brings up mail that isn't mine. 7 steps from my bed to the window where the screen rattles if I breathe too close. This is my life now. No headlines. No goodbyes. Just absence. I haven't spoken Calder's name aloud in 146 days. Even in my mind, it feels foreign. The edges of her syllables scrape against memory. I see her face in the corners of reflections, glass, puddles, the back of spoons. But only for a second. Then it's gone. And I stay gone, too. I keep a journal. Sort of. It's a napkin from the diner, folded 27 times. I write down questions I never asked her. Did I ever feel like home to you? Were you lonely before you were unfaithful? Or after? When did I stop being the person you waited for? I don't try to answer them. Some words aren't meant to circle back. One afternoon, I walk 3 blocks to a bookstore that smells like old basements and peppermint. I pick up a novel I used to teach, The Remains of the Day. There's a passage in it about dignity and regret, and I freeze. Right there in the aisle. Book open. Breathing shallow. My reflection stares back at me from the plexiglass on the shelf behind. I don't recognize him. I used to wear shirts Calder picked out. Now I just grab whatever's clean. Colors don't matter when you stop being seen. The woman at the register asks if I want a bag. I say no. I walk out with the book under my arm like it's a shield. That night, I dream of a door. It's wooden, painted green, slightly open. I can hear her on the other side, laughing with someone else. Not cruel, just happy. It's the kind of laugh I used to think was mine. I don't knock. I don't enter. I just listen, until the sound fades. When I wake, there's a voicemail blinking on my phone. That phone, I kept it off for months. No messages. No pings. I only turned it on to check the weather now and then. But somehow, I'd left it on this time. The message is short. 4 words. Ward. I found you. It's her voice. Softer. Different. Not a question. Not a command. Just a statement. A landing. Like a stone in water. And just like that, I'm not invisible anymore. I don't answer the phone. Instead, I watch it blink. Once. Then twice. Then it stops. I sit in the chair by the window, the one with uneven legs I keep forgetting to fix. The wind brushes against the glass like it wants to come in. I don't let it. For hours later, I open the voicemail. Not to hear it. To read it. The transcription says, "Ward, it's me. I know this is a shock. I don't want to disturb you, but I think we need to talk. I'm in Winslow until Friday. No pressure. No pressure." That's Calder. Even now, packaging her words in soft cloth so they don't bruise. Winslow is 2 towns over. Close enough to reach me. Far enough to let me ignore her. I go to the market. I pick up eggs and matches and 2 apples I won't eat. I think about buying coffee, but I haven't had a cup since I left her. The smell reminds me of her bathrobe. Outside the store, snow falls in thick spirals. I walk home. I take the long way past the school, the post office, the mural with peeling bluebirds I helped repaint last July. And that's when I see her. Calder. Standing on the other side of the street in a navy coat I've never seen before. Her hair is shorter now, curled at the ends, like she's trying to look younger but hasn't fully committed. She doesn't smile. She doesn't wave. She just looks. Like she's checking to make sure I'm real. I don't cross. Neither does she. The light changes. Cars pass. When they clear, she's gone. Back at the motel, I try to write. Not letters. Not a journal. Just a sentence. One that might explain something to myself. I write it 26 times. I didn't leave because you cheated. I left because you didn't look back when I did. The next day, there's a knock at the door. Soft. Once. Then again. She's standing there close enough to reach, far enough that I don't have to. She says nothing at first. Not even hello. Then, finally. I wasn't ready to lose you. And I lost you anyway. I let the silence grow. Let it fill the space between us. Then I ask, calmly. Why now? Her eyes move toward the cracked mirror behind me. She doesn't answer. Instead, she pulls something from her pocket, not a gift, not a note. A photograph. The two of us, years ago, standing in front of a bookstore in South Portland. We looked ordinary, tired, but we were holding hands like it still meant something. She says, barely above a whisper. I look at this, and I can't remember why I let it go. I close the door slowly. Not hard. Not fast. Just enough to end the moment. Because this isn't her story anymore. It's mine. And I don't know yet if she's earned her way back in. I didn't expect to see her again the next morning. But there she was, sitting outside the bakery near the edge of town, one table away from the window, cupping a paper coffee cup like it was something precious. I walked past. Slower than I should have. Not because I wanted to be noticed, I didn't, but because I couldn't help watching her in this new context, away from our house, our city, our history. Calder looked like a version of herself I didn't recognize. That unsettled me more than I expected. She used to be the woman who filled our kitchen with quiet humming while chopping vegetables, who adjusted crooked picture frames without saying a word. This woman looked out of place, not just in Winslow, but in her own skin. Her coat didn't fit right. Her eyes scanned everyone around her like she was searching for a specific tone of voice. But when she looked up and caught my gaze through the window, her face didn't break. Not into a smile. Not into sorrow. Just acknowledgement. I kept walking. It wasn't anger that moved my legs forward. It wasn't pride. It was something more numbing, the absence of pull. A year ago, I would have stopped, sat across from her, asked her why. I would have needed the story, the context, the timeline. But the man I'd become didn't require those pieces anymore. I wasn't here to stitch anything back together. I had no interest in sewing up old fabric just because it once kept me warm. That afternoon, a note slid under my motel room door. Folded neatly. Blank on the outside. Inside, a single sentence. If you listen, I'll tell you everything I didn't say before. I didn't react. Not at first. I stared at the handwriting. I'd seen it on birthday cards, grocery lists, torn receipts left on the fridge. My stomach didn't twist. My hands didn't tremble. There was a time when that would have shattered me. Now, it just landed quietly. I placed the note on the nightstand beside the half-finished crossword puzzle I'd stopped caring about 2 weeks ago. I opened the window, letting the cold air crawl in slowly. I waited to feel something sharper. It didn't come. Instead, I noticed how still everything had become. The walls, the trees outside, the air in my lungs. I realized then that grief, the real kind, doesn't always scream or ache. Sometimes it just pauses. It waits for you to move again. When night fell, I stood by the motel's vending machine for what must have been half an hour. Not to buy anything. Just to hear the soft hum. The sound was familiar, unchanging, and in a strange way, comforting. Calder's voice was not. I could still hear it from earlier, not what she said, but the quiet under it. That quiet held more than any sentence she might offer. It held the distance between who we were and who we became. And that gap, wide as it was, wasn't something I could cross by listening. It had to be something she walked herself. Back in the room, I sat down with a pen and turned over the note she'd left. On the back, I wrote, "There are things I'm willing to hear, but I'm not the same man who once waited by the door." I didn't sign it. Didn't leave a date or time. I slid it into an envelope I'd kept from the first week I arrived, an old water bill that had nothing to do with her. I walked it to the front desk and asked Clintwood to hand it to her if she returned. He didn't ask questions. He rarely did. That's why I liked him. I didn't expect that to be the end of it. But I also didn't know what would come next. All I knew was that the version of myself that left her a year ago, that man disappeared on purpose. And whoever I was now, he didn't open doors out of habit. He needed reasons. And Calder, for the first time, looked like someone who was finally trying to earn one. The sky was the same color as wet pavement when I saw her again. She was standing beside her rental car, parked crooked outside the laundromat across from the motel. I'd never known her to fold clothes in public. That felt symbolic, maybe, or maybe just strange timing. I watched from the motel staircase, still halfway through my coffee, already lukewarm. She was wearing the scarf I once gave her, though she'd never liked it much. Said it made her look like someone else's grandmother. I remember that clearly. I also remember that she kept it anyway. It must have meant something. Or nothing. I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't speak. Just turned back inside. At noon, the diner 2 streets over had its usual empty booths. I took the one with the crooked salt shaker and the ripped red vinyl seat. A waitress I'd never seen before asked if I wanted coffee. I told her no. She asked again. I said no again. She looked confused and walked away without writing anything down. The couple 2 booths behind me were arguing about whether to paint their hallway blue or yellow. Neither seemed to care that much, but they still raised their voices. I envied their insignificance. Their safety in arguing about small things. Later that afternoon, a letter arrived. Not folded. Not written in haste. Heavy paper. Ink that didn't smudge. Calder's handwriting. Unmistakably careful. She never wrote in cursive, always small caps, like she was afraid to take up too much space. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Not because I was afraid of what it said, I wasn't, but because I wasn't sure if it would be honest. And I didn't want to read something polished. I wanted the mess. The letter was 4 pages. She wrote about ordinary things first. How her job changed. How the city was noisier now. How her apartment had bad water pressure. All those things that once would have irritated her in passing, now delivered like confessions. Then, finally, came the pivot. The reason she'd come here at all. She wrote, I didn't understand what silence could cost. I filled it with distractions, and I mistook that for healing. But the quiet only grew teeth. I reread that line more than the others. The quiet grew teeth. It sounded like something I would have said back when she told me I overthought everything. Strange how people remember your words better when they have to live in them alone. She said she hadn't spoken to Bergen in 10 months. That it ended the same way it began, without meaning. I thought it was about passion, she wrote. But it was really about escape. I just didn't realize what I was escaping from wasn't you. It was my own emptiness. I folded the letter once. No anger. No peace either. Just a flat understanding that she was finally starting to see the wreckage. Not the affair itself, that was just the spark. It was everything else. The drift, the quiet dismissal, the casual emotional exits. You don't lose someone by mistake. You lose them piece by pretending their stillness doesn't mean anything. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of the room with the letter still in my lap, and I stared at the ceiling, listening to the same creaks I'd grown used to. But they sounded different now. Like something in the structure had shifted. And somewhere around 4 a.m., I whispered one sentence to the dark, unsure who it was for. She didn't break me. I broke off. Breakfast, dry toast. Weather, 39 degrees Fahrenheit, overcast. Sleep, intermittent, 3 hours total. Notable dreams, none recalled. Subject, Merrick. Left motel at 8:42 a.m., same jacket, same pace. Route unchanged. Walked north, past bookstore, past field where dog walkers gather. No eye contact with passersby. Facial expression, unreadable. At 9:06 a.m., arrived at bench near Winslow Library. Saturday. Read letter from Calder again. Did not unfold it fully. Held it with one hand. Did not react visibly. Observed small details without comment. Tree with peeling bark. 2 teenagers arguing over whose playlist was better. A man selling honey from the back of a pickup. Purchased nothing. Spoke to no one. At 10:24 a.m., Calder approached. No announcement. No waving. Just a presence. She stood in front of Merrick for 9 full seconds. When she spoke, her voice was flat. Said, I'm not asking to go back. I just want you to know I see it now. Merrick did not look up. Response, what does that change? Silence. Wind shifted. Her scarf fluttered once, then settled. Calder said, I miss the version of me you brought out. The one who didn't look over her shoulder so much. No reply. She sat on the other end of the bench. Left 3 feet of space between them. Pulled out a thermos. Poured herself tea. Offered him some. He declined with a slight motion of the head. They sat in silence for 11 minutes. Then, I thought love meant forgiveness, she said. No, he replied. Forgiveness is a different door. It doesn't open backward. She nodded, said nothing more. At 10:45 a.m., she stood, placed a small package on the bench, and walked away. No backward glance. No visible hesitation. Contents of package. A pair of gloves he lost 2 winters ago. Still clean. Still his. Back at the motel, Merrick placed the gloves in the drawer beside the extra room key. He did not cry. He did not sigh. He stared at the wall until the light changed. Dear Calder, you won't read this, but I need to write it anyway. Not for you. Not even for closure. I just need to see these words outside of my body. I want you to know that I no longer carry you like I used to. There was a time I woke up with your silence still folded in the corners of my brain. I waited for the sound of your keys in the door, even months after I left. But that's over now. You don't haunt me. You don't hurt me. You just exist. Like a winter that finally ended. You asked if I could ever forgive you. The truth is, I don't know if I need to. Forgiveness isn't something I owe you. And I'm not angry anymore. That's what surprises me the most. There's no fire left. Just a cool kind of clarity. I see now that we both made choices before we had the language to explain them. You needed something I couldn't provide. I needed honesty you weren't ready to give. Neither of us were villains. We were just unfinished people who thought love could outrun our emptiness. I don't hate you for finding someone else. I'm not even sure that's where everything cracked. What hurt more, what really stuck, was how you made me feel invisible long before the affair. I remember sitting across from you at dinner while you scrolled through your phone, nodding at my words like background noise. I remember birthdays that became obligations, holidays where we said the right things but didn't mean them. And worst of all, I remember how quiet it got, how normal that quiet began to feel. I've built a different kind of life now. Not exciting, not loud, but it's mine. I fix furniture again. I eat alone and enjoy it. I started playing the piano again, badly, but with feeling. I don't need much. Just mornings that belong to me, nights that don't ache, and days where I don't second-guess who I am when no one's watching. You came here to tell me you still care. I believe you. But caring isn't enough. Not anymore. There's nothing left for me to return to. The version of us that mattered is buried beneath too many silences and almosts. I don't want to resurrect it. I want to remember it kindly, then leave it where it belongs. So no, I won't call. I won't answer your next message. I won't meet you for coffee to catch up. This is the most honest thing I can offer you now, distance. And maybe that's its own kind of love, knowing when not to come back. Take care of yourself. Merrick.